I want to get back to our story that hits close to home for us here at NewsNation. One of our own reporters was arrested while simply doing his job.
Well, he was covering that Ohio story that we just talked about, that train derailment and fire. But this is Evan Lambert. If you haven't seen him yet, you'll see video of him all over the internet. He was released from jail last night after being removed from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine's news conference about that train derailment. They were giving an update to the community about the story. Evan's been on the ground all week in the community of East Palestine, but he was charged with disorderly conduct and criminal trespassing. Here's what he told Ashley Banfield just moments after walking out of jail last night.
I have to be kind of careful about what I say, but as you can see, I'm out. Most things are on video of the situation, so it's pretty clear to see what happened. But I'll just say this: I'm just trying to do my job, as I am continuing to do right now. No one expects, no journalist expects to be arrested when you're doing your job.
And attorney Jesse Weber, legal analyst for the Law and Crime Network, is with me right now. We're grateful you're here to break some of this down. Evan was credentialed media. This news conference was at a public school organized by public officials, and it was all about getting information out to the community about that chemical leak. So in terms of the law enforcement's rights, I've been at news conferences. I've been at many things where the police will tell you where you can stand, how to conduct yourself, where you cannot go. Is there any part of this that looks like criminal trespassing?
Well, look, I have to preface this by saying we don't have a lot of the details. As Evan said, there were some parts of it that weren't captured on camera. Now, let's be very clear, as you alluded, freedom of the press is a sacred right. It's a fundamental right. It's a very important right. I will say it's not an absolute right. So if someone, a reporter, were to engage in criminal trespass, being somewhere where they're not supposed to be, or disorderly conduct, that's when it might step over the line. Now, I looked at what the Ohio disorderly conduct statute is. It is very broad. It encompasses a lot of different behavior. It encompasses anything from creating a situation that might result in violence or harm. From what I saw, it doesn't match up to that. However, there is a part of it that talks about unreasonable noise. Is that what happened here? Again, it's very fact intensive. We need to know what that exchange is. And of course, my guess would be that if the officers believed he was engaging in disorderly conduct, that is what led to criminal trespass. He might have had the right to be there, but based on his conduct, they decided he didn't have the right to be there. Now, again, are they justified? Was it a violation of his First Amendment rights? This is something that's going to have to develop and see, but clearly they felt justified in arresting him on these two charges, and they were going to keep him overnight if it wasn't for the great actions of the network and also Governor DeWine.
Yeah, and Governor DeWine apologizing for his arrest. He said he did not order this correspondent, Evan Lambert, to be arrested during that news conference. But again, like you mentioned, we are still waiting to get all of the information here. But what would your argument be if you were the defense attorney?
I would say these kinds of live hits, which I have done before, happen across the country all the time. You can tell a reporter, you know what, can you move over to this side? Can you be a bit quiet? Again, without knowing what that interaction was, why they felt the need to use such force on Evan is beyond me. I don't quite understand it. From what I'm seeing, there could be more of a justification on Evan's part, but we really need to understand that conversation about what happened. There are ways to handle this, particularly the optics of it are terrible. You're dealing with a very serious story about a train derailment that I think the American people need to know. And the fact that you have a reporter optically looks like he was being silenced on it, it doesn't look great. So I think that what ultimately is this going to happen? What happens next in this criminal process, there'll be an arraignment. If they want to go forward, Evan would plead which way he wants to plead with the charges, and then there would be a preliminary hearing. I think this is going to be dropped. If you ask me, I think it's going to be dropped. But ultimately, again, we do not know what that conversation was in that interaction.
I have to just check one thing that you said. You're saying the optics didn't look good because it appeared as though he was being silenced at this news conference to inform the public. I think the optics don't look good for a few reasons. But one thing to note is that we actually see Evan and those officers in some sort of verbal tense moment. I don't even want to characterize it, but it appears as though he's arguing with them. I think at one point you hear him say, "Don't touch me." Clearly, law enforcement, for generations, for eons, is allowed to remove someone if they think that it's a disruption. And it looks as though he really upset somebody for them to use the kind of force to pull him to the ground, which they did right after they left the gymnasium.
Right, of course, and they do have the right to do that. As I said, Evan would have the right to be there if he did something illegal, right? If they believed he engaged in disorderly conduct. Clearly, they felt the need to do that at that point. That conversation is going to be key. It's going to be very fact intensive, and we don't want to be in a position where we always second guess police, because I will tell you, this is rare that it happens. We don't see it happen that often. And so the question, of course, is why did it happen here? And so it's going to be a question of that conversation right there, what that exchange was. Could it have been something as simple as, you're making a bit of noise right now, we need you to step aside, can you finish this up? And if it escalated from there, that's when the situation might change.
Right, and that's what we have to find out. Thank you very much, Jesse, for being with us as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.